Good morning, everyone. It is Man Coverage. This is college football week number 9. It is October 29th, 2023. Sunday, the Lord's Day. We are back to break down this weekend's action of college football. All that was, all that will be, and forevermore of week number 9. And since it's the Lord's Day, I think maybe we should start off talking about people who aren't really thinking about the Lord when they go about their preparation for games. And obviously, I'm talking about your boy, Jimmy Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines. Already was in trouble, if you may not remember, but he was supposed to be suspended for the first 4 games of the year. They had it all worked out for previous infractions. The deal, so to speak, fell apart, so they were just going to revisit his punishment for next year. Well, obviously, we have new information, James, and I think everybody's heard the story by now. But just to recap, they've been cheating ever since Jimmy almost got booted in 2020. I mean, if you recall, Michigan football was not good, James. They sucked. They sucked pretty much every year. They went 2-4 and then chickened out of the game in 2020. And things kind of turned around after that. And it seems now like maybe it wasn't just hard work. James, what is your feeling about all this? And does it make you want to have to take a shower after reading all these articles?
Well, I mean, a lot of what I'm hearing is hearsay, but it's kind of funny too as well. I mean, you've seen more film on this than the Zapruder films. I mean, heck, I mean, there's one on Twitter that was like basically nailed it down, the camera angle down, so you could see the actual card of what the signals were showing. Yep. The part that boggles my mind in this is, if all these allegations are true, how incredibly dumb Connor Stallion is. First of all, Connor Stallion, that can't be his real name. That has to be a porn name. That just has to be. You buy the tickets in your own freaking name. I mean, now it's like people are wearing Michigan shirts to games no matter what. Like I saw somebody trying to go into a Texas A&M game. The part that kind of makes this whole thing add up is an allegation that Ohio State tipped off TCU about the sign stealing, and Spike Dykes decided to create dummy signals.
And they won.
And they won. I mean, not only won, they won convincingly. Like, Michigan just didn't look right in that game the entire game. And they just, man, that was interesting to say the least.
Well, and I get it. A lot of this is hearsay, James, but we've already seen evidence. And if you look, it's matching up with what has occurred. I mean, they couldn't beat anybody with a pulse for years. And then, Jim Harbaugh is about to leave for the NFL. They're considering firing him. And then all of a sudden, they get really, really good, really, really fast. And, there's hearsay, but there's also video showing, especially in the game where the Buckeyes are changing the play. And as soon as they send the signals out to change the play, the Michigan guy changes their play, and then they stuff them, for -4 yards. And it's like, this is all, making a lot of sense. And obviously I hate Michigan, and I would do anything to tarnish their name. So I'm not a real good resource to talk about this. That's why I'm letting you talk, because
Well, I mean, I think James Franklin said it the best.
Yes.
Where he was talking about there was an instance where they were playing them and it was a 4th and 1.
Yeah.
And they audibled out of the play. and they go into cover 2 on a 4th and 1. Who goes on a goal line setup goes into cover 2?
Yeah.
I mean,
that was very good. And these people that were like, a lot of Michigan faithful are like, the coaches don't even care. And I'm like, obviously you haven't listened to James Franklin because he cares.
now I will say this. I mean, because let's be honest, this is exactly like the Houston Astros scenario. I would be remiss to say if they are the only program doing this, I will be shocked. I think it's I wouldn't be a bit surprised if there's more out there. It's just for an educational institution like Michigan, and you can't deny it, educationally, they're top notch. This is like Sesame Street dumb on how they've put this covert action together. I mean, heck, my 4th grade daughter could put a more covert I mean, he bought tickets in his own name. I mean, what in the world is going on in Ann Arbor? I just sit there and like scratch my head. But
well, I just think at this point they don't think they're going to get in trouble for anything. I mean, if you think about it, they broke the rules. He was supposed to be suspended. He didn't get suspended. Then they had the Coach Weiss, I believe is his name, who got was
FBI
hacking
investigation.
Yeah, it was hacking computers and stealing sensitive information on a Michigan computer. He gets fired, but the team doesn't. Nothing really happens to the team or the program. I kind of feel like they believe that they can do whatever they want and nothing's going to happen because nothing has happened.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. The NCAA doesn't move exactly fast. And quite frankly, this is one where you would rather get it right than quick. But you and I both know if anybody does anything, that Michigan's going to lawyer up and they're going to basically, I mean, they're going to tie this up in appeals till long after the national championship game and something happens. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen between now and then, but let's say they do win the national championship and it gets taken away from them. This isn't a black eye on Michigan, but this is a black eye on the Big Ten and college football as a whole. And honest to God, I would rather have it done quicker than normal, to be honest with you, because this is something we got to stop. Otherwise, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, after what Houston did, you and I both know, no matter, I mean, Houston could do it right for the next 50 years. People are still going to bang on drums and call them a bunch of cheaters.
Yeah, well, and that's why I don't really, I get it. Investigations take time and all that. I understand it, but that's not really how the world works anymore. If you get accused of something right now, someone accuses me or accuses anyone of doing something, very inappropriate, most of the time right now you get suspended or you get fired pending the investigation. And that this is, not just in sports. So this is pretty much across the board. And well, I don't like that. I don't like that that's how it is, but that's how it is now.
Yeah. I mean, look at the punter from San Diego State.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been out of football now for 2 years? I mean, he's never going to make that money back. And he wasn't even there. He wasn't even at the location. But
he's not the only one. I mean, there's been many a person have been suspended, have been kicked off of teams, kicked out of places and fired, whatever. And then they're, later proven innocent, and it doesn't really matter because the damage has been done. So I'm not sure why
there's the court of law and the court of public opinion.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing is there's two separate courts in this day and age. So, but we'll see how this pans out for Captain Khaki Pants.
Yeah.
I mean, call me crazy, but I think he's going to be in Chicago next year. Call me crazy, but I think he's going to be coaching the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, he's just going to bolt. Nothing's going to. That's for dang sure. I mean, he'll just leave and go to the NFL or whatever, and nothing will happen to him. But that's not really fair because the head coach is ultimately responsible. And I don't understand, like when things happen at Northwestern, the head coach takes all the blame and he gets fired and loses his job that he's had for 20 plus years. But then stuff like this happens and the coach just moves on and gets paid more money to go somewhere else. And that doesn't really seem fair to me. Not that the world is fair, but that to me bothers me.
The part that bothers me the most is we keep hearing about the Michigan man and how the Michigan man is above reproach. I mean, now this is what, the third separate incident in the last 3 years?
Correct.
I mean, it's not like this is a one-off scenario. I mean, heck, third, this is probably fourth or fifth since he's been at Michigan. I mean, at some point, does a Michigan man mean anything? Otherwise, just stop saying it. You know, if they're above reproach, you guys should have gone after him when he was doing the longer practices. I mean, heck, the recruiting scale. I mean, it keeps going on and on. This issue keeps snowballing and snowballing. And I don't know. Either it means something or it doesn't. But if it doesn't, stop saying it. Stop acting like it means something.
Yeah, I mean, either there's rules or there aren't rules.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about it. I mean, either there's rules and you enforce them and people have to follow them, or we just have no rules anymore and people can do whatever they want. And that's what I keep seeing. People like, oh, this isn't that big of a deal, or, oh, who cares? Change your signs. Well, what happened to integrity? What happened to like actually giving an F about being, a responsible human being? And apparently that does not matter anymore. But I'm pretty sure it's supposed to.
If this was happening in Columbus, the Walmart Wolverines would have been out in full force.
Yeah,
you know it for a fact.
Well, if this was Ohio State, this would be the number one story on every single sports outlet, on every single news channel across the globe. And, that's all anyone would be talking about. But because, there's so many people who went to Michigan and are in the sports media or like Michigan, they have a big fan base, and there's just a bias where, they just kind of get away with stuff, and that's kind of how it works. But that doesn't make it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about football, because this is making me sick, literally sick to my stomach. So let's talk about some of the games that went down yesterday. And I want to highlight, first off, the game. Oklahoma was coming off a big time win versus Texas down in the Cotton Bowl. Their last year in the Big 12 before they moved to the SEC, Texas included. Everybody was feeling really good about Brent Venables, feeling good about the program. Dillon Gabriel was, on billboards. And then all of a sudden they go into where we are right now in Memorial Stadium here in Kansas. And they forgot that Coach Leopold is now in charge for the Jayhawks. I mean, this ain't your daddy's Kansas football team. Not even playing with their starting quarterback. They come out and play a hell of a game. What did you think about Kansas taking care of business and knocking off Oklahoma yesterday? It wasn't a fluke game. I mean, they were ahead almost the entire contest. Did you see this coming or no?
I did and I didn't. I mean, I think you'd have to live under a rock to hear me not talk about the gospel of Lance Leopold and everywhere he's gone. I mean, quite frankly, I thought it was going to take him 5 years to make them a competitive team. He did it in 2. And now they knock off Oklahoma, a team they haven't beaten since 1997. I mean, 1997. That's pre-Bob Stoops.
It's a long time ago.
Drake Stoops wasn't even alive, wasn't even remotely thought about back then. And it's not like Kansas played this incredible game. I mean, heck, Jason Bean was 15 of 32. He was below 50% completion percentage, and he had 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
But the running game, heck, they went for 225. They were chopping up 5.5 yards a carry. I mean, Devin Neal, Hinshaw Jr., and Bean are a good combination out there. And there was no Daniels. I mean, the preseason Big 12 predicted player of the year didn't even play. Dillon Gabriel, I mean, 14 to 19. I mean, if you're going to beat Kansas, why didn't they throw more? I mean, the problem is you look at Oklahoma's roster, who's the best receiver? Maybe Farouk, but Drake Stoops?
Yeah.
I mean, Oklahoma just looked very bad yesterday. It's not
Yeah,
like
that's
Kansas
what I was going to
game.
ask you. How did this Oklahoma team beat Texas? I mean, I watched them play yesterday, and I was just kind of like, this is kind of what I thought Oklahoma was, and I think that's who they are. How did they? I mean, did they just play a perfect game against Texas? Did Texas play badly? How did this same team that just lost to Kansas, who seemed to be, Kansas seemed to be the better team?
I mean, heck, they beat UCF at home by 2 last week.
Right.
I mean, maybe we were overanalyzing Oklahoma and Texas because, I mean, strangely enough, if you look up in the standings, Brett Yormark has got to be thanking God right now because there's a 5-way tie for first. And there is a legitimate chance both Oklahoma and Texas may not even make the Big 12 championship game before they leave to go to the SEC. I mean, heck, you could look at it right now. The two teams I think are playing the best in the Big 12 is Iowa State and Oklahoma State. And who the hell saw that coming? Because I sure as hell didn't.
They didn't look good at the beginning of the year. That's for sure.
I mean, you look at two teams that just, I mean, those two teams in Virginia Tech have been a tale of two cities.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very strange. Oklahoma State, especially, I thought was just horrible at football this year. And they couldn't get out of their own way. They were a turnover machine, and it seems like he's gotten it figured out. I didn't lose faith in Mike Gundy saying that he couldn't, all of a sudden couldn't coach football, but it just looked like they didn't have a really good team. They were getting challenged and beat by teams that they should have no business losing to. And now it looks like they've figured it out.
The power of the mullet, you may take the mullet away, but the power is still there. I mean, Oliver Gordon looked pedestrian in non-conference. He is now the second running back in Oklahoma State history to have back-to-back 200-yard games. And the person before him, you may have heard of him. He's kind of pretty good in Barry Sanders. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good football player.
Now, I'm not saying Gordon's Barry Sanders. I'm not on crack. No. So, but, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Thank you for that disclaimer.
Well, I just want to make sure people know that, I'm not trying to compare the two are the same thing, but that's pretty freaking impressive.
I like it. Well, yeah, I mean, that's my big thing is it looks like whoever does win the Big 12 may have 2 losses.
Yeah.
By the time we get there. I don't know. I think, we'll look ahead later, but it seems to me like they may cannibalize each other down the stretch. And
Dylan Gabriel, I think we've always been wishing Dylan Gabriel was something more than he is. I think he's a serviceable, good, strong quarterback. But we've wanted to make Oklahoma as if Barry Switzer was still the coach. And I'm sorry, that's been for almost 40 years. I mean, even Bob Stoops, those days are done. He is not that kind of a quarterback. He's good. He's not great.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's gotten them better than they were last year. I think he's on his way to building a good program, but do I think they're there yet? I obviously not. And it wasn't just this loss to Kansas that had me thinking that, but this definitely put a big red sticker on it. Let's go to the Big Ten for a moment, if we shall. Got to be honest, I was a little nervous yesterday. The first half was rocky at best on offense for the Ohio State Buckeyes. But the defense is back. I mean, this looks like Jim Tressel's silver bullet boys. I mean, this defense is for real. Once again, the second week in a row, Ohio State's opposition had one drive that led to one extended drive that led to a touchdown all day long. And I think that's pretty impressive. I am blown away by what Jim Knowles has done. Travion Henderson decided to make an appearance for the Ohio State Buckeyes, which was very good for them. And Kyle McCord, first half looked not good, made a ton of mistakes, some bad throws. He could have fallen apart, but he didn't. And I'll give that kid credit for that. What did you think about the 24-10 Buckeye win up in Camp Randall?
There are a couple things that really stand out to me. You nailed it on the head with the defense. But honestly, if there was ever a time you needed Travion Henderson to play that game, it was yesterday. And the reason being is, the offensive line was not opening holes like you've seen in the past. And guys like Mayan Williams or Chip Trayanum were never able to get to the edge because they weren't quick enough to do it, to help bust those plays open. And Travion Henderson does have that speed. Granted, it must be Groundhog's Day because once a year he comes out, he can see his shadow. And he plays.
Then he disappears again.
He disappears again. Absolutely. The thing that offensively that really impressed me was the matchup between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Ricardo Hallman. And Ricardo's an outstanding cornerback for the Badgers. I think their D-backs, quite frankly, are not good, but Hallman is a stud. He already has 5 interceptions on the year, and I was looking forward to seeing that matchup between the two. But that defense, you look at it, Locke was really being pressured to throw quickly. I honestly, though, Braden Locke, I like him better than Tanner Mordecai. I do too. Mordecai's stats, as much complaining there's been in Madison about Graham frickin' Mertz, Graham Mertz was a better quarterback than Tanner Mordecai. And I don't think now, should he have gotten credit? No. But Tanner Mordecai, this injury may have helped the Badgers out, even though they lost. They really played a much better game than I thought they would.
Yeah, I was impressed by the performance. I think Coach Fickell's going to have this team, shored up, I think, in a year or so. He's going to have to get on the recruiting trail. There's some pieces that he needs to find. There's some things he needs to do to get this team, to the level that he had Cincinnati playing. But I was impressed by the way they showed up. The game plan for the Badgers was pretty damn good. They're 5-3. So it's not like they're having a horrible season. And I think they're on the right track. They hired the right guy is basically what I'm saying. The one thing that is concerning to me the most right now about the Buckeyes offense is without Egbuka, this receiving core is just not producing plays. Julian Fleming continues to kind of be like, where's this guy go? He was the number 1 player in the country, and then he just kind of disappeared and was on the field all night long and had 2 catches for 19 yards. The second leading receiver was Travion Henderson with 45 yards, and 30 of those came on 1 play. So I think they added it up, and Ohio State had near 400 yards of offense, and 360 of them were Travion Henderson and Marvin Harrison Jr. So somebody else needs to come to the table. And you mentioned Mayan Williams. Where is he? He's been out for several weeks too, and that's a problem. They need to get, if Ohio State's going to win meaningful games down the stretch, they need Egbuka and they need Mayan Williams added to this offense. Do you agree with that?
I don't disagree. And quite frankly, I would take it a couple steps farther. And what about Carnell Tate? And Carnell Tate and Cade Stover, especially Carnell Tate, he's got to jump to that next level. I was expecting him to be much like JSN, if not like 80% of what JSN was when he was a freshman in Columbus. And
I did too.
He's just not putting the numbers out that I expected because he was the exact same amount of hype.
Yeah, no, he was, and he's a really good player, and he's shown some flashes at times, but he hasn't been a consistent mainstay for that receiving core. And great point on Cade Stover. Where the hell was he yesterday?
Yeah.
He didn't catch a ball. He did throw some pretty good blocks and, was used in the running game. But not to target him once, I think is a big mistake. Is that guy is one of your best options, in my opinion.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking, especially when you had the Hallman-Harrison matchup. I mean, you would think that the tight end and Stover would be open quite a bit in that set, and that's why I'm kind of shocked they never really made that move.
Me also. But let's move on, because I could talk about the Buckeyes.
Oh yeah, we could talk about. We could have a 4-hour show just on this game.
We really could. But we need to talk about another team that I know they have a loss, but I think this team is one of the top teams in the country, and that's Oregon. I know they're ranked number 8. They probably honestly should be a little bit higher than that. Utah has proven to be a good football team, and Oregon just dismantled them yesterday, 35-6. Bo Nix is I can't believe I'm saying this, is really, really playing great football and chucking touchdowns, making good decisions, making good reads. What did you think about this matchup? I thought this would be a closer game. Did you?
I did too, honestly. I was shocked. I mean, Oregon curb stomped Utah, plain and simple. And I think this is partly to show, I mean, yeah, Bryson Barnes is not a Heisman Trophy candidate. He's a pig farmer, and the pig farmer showed up. We saw the pig farmer yesterday, because when you have an 18 QBR, you're not going to win very many games. And I mean, Utah has always made itself on the line of scrimmage, and Oregon owned them. And it made me sitting there watching the game thinking, if you play this Oregon-Washington game today, I'd pick Oregon to win, and I'd probably pick Oregon to win convincingly.
Well, Oregon could have won, in case you forgot, if they didn't go for it on 4th down 4 times and fail and not take points when they were down inside, the 25-yard line. I still don't understand why he refused to kick field goals, but they would have beat Washington had they, kicked 2 field goals. So that to me really sticks out as we move along in this season. And I know Coach Lanning is kicking himself for that. But yeah, I mean, this Utah team is always a gritty, tough bunch of kids. But without Cam Rising, this just isn't a team that can win the Pac-12, in my opinion. Not with Bryson Barnes. Those are 2 different animals, if you're asking my opinion.
Well, honestly, I look at this Utah team, and now that Cam Rising is officially out for the year, which is like the worst kept secret in America since he's been like questionable game time decision for 8 weeks. Yeah, at some point you just got to say cut the tide right there and move on.
Yeah.
But Utah going 6-2, this is Kyle Whittingham's probably best coaching job he's had.
I agree with that.
Lake.
I agree with that. They don't have Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
They don't have some of the NFL, last year they had at least 2 or 3 top 3 first 3 round draft picks in the NFL on their defense. They had a first 2 round tight end, Dalton Kincaid. He was the first tight end taken off the board. They had Cam Rising, who in my opinion could potentially be an NFL player, maybe not a starter, but could be a backup on an NFL team at least. They just don't have that type of talent this year. And I agree with you. I think the fact that they are where they are is a testament to the coach that they have.
Oh, I mean, Kyle Whittingham does more with less than anybody I've ever seen. It's amazing.
I couldn't agree more. And talking about coaching, let's go down to the largest cocktail party in the world and talk about a coach who is probably on his way out. And I'm talking about Billy Napier. I didn't really like the hire when they made it, and it's just not working down there in Gainesville. And, a lot of Gator fans got excited when the Gators jumped out 7-0. Well, then things got corrected in a hurry, and Georgia became Georgia. What do you think about this Gator team? And do you think do you think Napier's in trouble? I mean, they're 5-3, but it just they're getting blown out in a lot of these games, and they're not even close.
Yeah, they're not playing well at all. I mean, I remember going into the year, I've been saying that I was very doubtful on Florida because I really questioned their offensive line to begin with, and you got Graham Mertz behind them, and Graham Mertz actually is exceeding my expectations, but
Me too.
they don't have the stars on this roster at all. But on the recruiting trail, I'm not going to lie, Billy Napier is just killing it right now. And I have a hard time seeing them get rid of him at this point. I mean, heck, you bring in LJ McCray out of Mainland, the 5-star D-line prospect. You got DJ Langway out of Willis, Texas, the 5-star prospect, as well as Xavier Filsami, the McKinney, Texas product at corner. I mean, you bring in 3 5-stars. They've got a top 5 recruiting class. I think they're going to give them a shot moving ahead, but I'm not going to lie. I think the leash is going to be short. I think you're 4, they better be taking on Georgia.
Yeah, I'm just confused as to this team. In some weeks looks good, and other weeks looks horrible.
Yeah.
I do like some of the pieces. Trevor Etienne is a good player. Montrell Johnson Jr. is a pretty good back. They have pretty good backfield, but you look at these two teams next to each other, and it's not this is not the matchup that it used to be. It didn't seem like Brock Bowers, being gone. Who let's be honest, Brock Bowers is one of the top players in college football. It didn't seem to really matter. And I think Carson Beck is playing better as he goes. I think he's getting better. I think this team is figuring out what they can do around him. What's your status on Georgia Bulldogs right now? I mean, I know they're ranked number 1. Do you believe they're the number 1 team? And what do you think the probability of is of them winning a 3rd championship in a row?
5%? 10%?
Really that low? You're not believing in them?
I mean, I will say I'm pretty impressed with Carson Beck. I mean, you look at it from a pure stat standpoint, passing wise, they haven't thrown up these kind of numbers since Eric Zaire, and there was a first pick in the draft at quarterback in that time period too, as well, and a guy named Matt Stafford who only won a Super Bowl. So I mean, he's putting up decent stats with other than Brock Bowers. I mean, he had 315 yesterday, but I look at this team, they just don't have that it factor on defense they once did that carry this team. And outside of Brock Bowers, who else out there really impresses you? Now, I'm really intrigued about next week's game against Mizzou because I think a lot of people have been downplaying Mizzou for some time, and they're playing pretty decent football overall. I mean, somebody people should keep their eye on is their defensive coordinator, Dallas Baker, who really has been a bright point in that system. Because you remember 2-3 years ago, man, everybody could score on Missouri. I mean, heck, my son's 8th grade football team could have probably put up 15, 20 on them. And they've really turned that program around to this point. Now they're number 2 in the SEC East.
Yeah.
And who would have ever thought Missouri could be the team to be number 2 right now?
I did not expect that, going into this year. I really didn't. And I think you have to give the coaching staff a lot of credit for what they've done in Columbia, Missouri. I mean, they have exceeded my expectations already if they were to lose every single game from here on out. And I don't think they're getting the credit they deserve, honestly, with what they're doing this year. But I do think we need to talk about another coaching staff, which seems to have lost control of what's happening. I mean, what we were talking about Drake May and UNC winning the ACC and playing for something at the end of the season. Now I think we can pretty much rule that out. I mean, a second week in a row where they play a team that barely has a pulse and they get beat and give up 46 points to the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. What the hell is going on with North Carolina, James.
I honestly, defensively, they're a freaking train wreck. I mean, this is insane. There are. I mean, they gave up 46 points in 2 quarters. Georgia Tech didn't score in the first and third quarter.
I saw that.
I mean, that is insane. I mean, now, Haynes King is a very good quarterback who never really got to show his wares in College Station. But North Carolina was talked about playing for the ACC title. You don't play for the ACC title when you lose to Virginia and Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech, I mean, what Brent Key has done there is phenomenal. I mean, who would have ever thought Georgia Tech has a legitimate chance to make a bowl game this year?
Bowl game. They've won 4 games already.
And they're going to beat Virginia, and they got Syracuse at home. I mean, heck, if they beat Clemson at Clemson, I mean, put up a freaking statue of Brent Key in front of Bobby Dodd Stadium now, but it ain't out of the realm of possibility the way Clemson's playing right now.
Oh, I could see them beating Clemson with where they're at, and I could see a lot of these guys. I mean, Clemson's 4-4 now, bro, and I can see some people packing it in. And this guy's he's got these Yellow Jackets playing football, and as you mentioned, Haynes King, I always kind of liked him when he was at Texas A&M, and I thought he kind of got blamed for a lot of the shortcomings of their offense. Well, he didn't have any shortcomings yesterday. He threw 4 touchdown passes, and he ran 8 times for 90 yards, bro. I mean, that's a pretty good day. Now, I probably could have got a couple of yards against this Tar Heel defense, but still pretty impressive. He runs for 90 yards. Dante Smith runs for 178. Jamal Haynes runs for 80 yards. They had 348 yards rushing on the day.
Yeah.
I mean, 348 yards rushing, 287 in the air. I'll let you folks at home do the math. That's a lot of yardage in one contest.
And Matt Brown was known for his defenses. And I think we're going back to the old North Carolina defenses, especially last year, where, quite frankly, the common cold could take out their defense on a pretty regular basis. The one thing I will say from that game, I heard there was a hit at the end that really was a game changer. Crossing pattern to Tez Walker, who got blindsided from the other side. It took him a while to get up. I heard he was released from the hospital, but I was really worried about that because he went flying like it was a cartoon character. I mean, that ball popped out at least 10 yards. I mean, it was a legal hit. It was a good hit, but man, I was worried about him.
Yeah, that was not fun to watch, and I hope he's okay because that's a pretty solid football player. Speaking about solid football players, the Tennessee Volunteers have 3 of them in their backfield, and if you throw Joe Milton into the mix, the Vols have 4 guys that can carry the football. I mean, I almost feel like I'm watching Johnny Majors coaching over there instead of Josh Heupel. The way they're running the ball, I went to the game a couple weeks ago and they ran for 250 yards on Texas A&M. That's got a pretty good defense. And yesterday they ran for 253 on Kentucky, which coming in was 5-2 and 2-2 in the conference. Nothing to sneeze at. And honestly, Kentucky played a really good game. Devin Leary threw for 372 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks. Ray Davis was held in check for the most part with 16 carries for 42 yards. But what stood out to me was Joe Milton taking care of the football and Josh Heupel playing to his team's strengths and handing the football off to Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, and, of course, the youngster who's really becoming a fan favorite here in Knoxville, Dylan Sampson. What do you think about this? This is what I like about Josh Heupel, man. He's able to adapt based on what he has, and I think that's the sign, in my opinion, of a good coach.
Well, the question I have is this: does this make it that in even years that they become a passing team, and odd years they become a running team? I mean, because Fat Joe Milton, Jalen Wright, Dylan Sampson, Jabari Small. I mean, that's a good running combination. And let's be honest, you look at the year before, man, the receiving core was their staple. I mean, heck, Brew McCoy was viewed as a third option to Tillman and Hyatt, and those guys really showed out last year. And with Nico coming in, maybe they go back and forth, but it shows the versatility that Coach Heupel has to really accentuate what he needs to do to win.
Exactly. And if you recall, these guys they have now who are not horrible wide receivers, Squirrel White, Jamel Keaton, those guys, they were on the field as well last year. They would primarily roll with, Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. But, when those guys got tired or when Tillman got injured, Keaton stepped in and they didn't really miss a beat. And it didn't matter who was throwing the football, Hendon Hooker, or when he went down, Joe Milton came in and he picked right up where Hendon Hooker left off. And this was a pass-happy, throw-first type of team. And that's not the case this year. And I kind of figured that the passing game would not be as good. I did not realize they were going to morph into this like Oklahoma Barry Switzer, Jamel Holloway type of team where they're running all over people. But I got to tell you, after watching the Texas A&M game and then watching this football game, I'm not sure who else is going to be able to stop this running game. And I might include Georgia in that. I don't know if they can stop these guys if they're blocking the way they should and they're running like they did yesterday. I don't know. I think they've got a chance.
Is that game's in Knoxville this year too, isn't it?
That is correct, sir.
Yeah.
That is correct. There's going to be some rabid, drunk on whiskey Tennessee football fans in there for that one.
The question is, will the mustard bottles be in attendance? It would just be golf balls or mustard bottles this time. Nice.
Buddy, that was not planned. The fact that these people came to that game with mustard bottles and golf balls in their pockets, that just shows you the type of fans that we have down here in Knoxville, Tennessee.
That's when you need to have like Titleist or God, who's a good mustard company? Them sponsor the game.
French's.
They give French's, yes, absolutely. Have them be sponsors where they hand out, kind of like in basketball, they had dozen egg night. Everybody who comes into the stadium gets their own bottle of French's. I mean, come on, that would be a great promotion for those teams. So
yeah, I do think it helps. Dante Thornton, the transfer from Oregon, he led them in receiving yesterday and finally, had some nice plays along of 47, and they need him to step up if they're going to be successful down the stretch. But Joe Milton had a good day, 18 of 21. That's pretty accurate, if you ask me. 18 throws out of 21 are completed for 228 yards and, in a touchdown. And then, he ran it as well. This team is, I think, getting better and figuring out what they're good at as they go down the stretch. Would you agree with that?
Agreed. And, you look at the 18 for 21, everybody thinks it's dinks and dunks. I mean, they had 3 explosion plays during that game too as well. So,
exactly.
I mean, that shows you they weren't just going completely conservative in their passing attack.
Right. And there's, Joe Milton's taking some heat around here as, with Nico behind him and with all the hype and the fanfare that Nico has gotten prior to the season and during the season. And Joe's handled it pretty well. And I think that, this guy has shown me a lot of maturity. I mean, hell, he's been playing college football for 19 years, so he should be able to handle this. But it's not easy when people are second-guessing you and questioning you on every broadcast.
Well, I mean, he's no Hendon Hooker.
I never said that.
I know you did, but I mean, I think a lot of people out there are trying to compare him to Hendon Hooker, and that's just their different style of quarterback completely. And I think it's just unfair when I hear people talk about that. So, well, hey, should we move on to USC and Cal?
Yeah, I had a little technical hiccup there. I was staring at a blank screen. But, let's do that. Wow. This USC defense, we talked about some teams playing good defense. USC is not one of those teams that we will talk about how great they're playing defensively. I mean, 49 points they gave up yesterday to Cal, and Cal was in command of this game, even in the fourth quarter. How they managed to give up 21 points in the fourth and blow this lead, I will never really know. But Cal is not that great of a football team. Let's just be honest, and they looked like a pretty good one playing against USC yesterday, and it ended up. I don't question the decision. Going for 2, I think was the right idea. I think that was the right decision. It didn't work. I didn't really love the play call, but I did agree with going for 2 there for Cal down the stretch. 50-49 was your final, folks. James, break this game down for us. What the hell was this?
Alex Grinch, get the boxes ready. You're not going to be in LA much longer. And if I'm a betting man, call me crazy, but don't be surprised if Dave Aranda is fighting on next year as the defensive coordinator for the Trojans.
You think he's going to leave Baylor?
Oh, I think he's going to get fired.
You think so?
Yeah, I think he's going to get fired from Baylor.
Really? After the season he put up in the first year, they're going to just move on right now?
I keep hearing rumor about it that he is going to get fired. And honestly, the logical fit would put him with Lincoln Riley in LA, because you can't give up 40 points a game every freaking game.
527 yards, 527 on offense for the Cal Golden Bears. I did not think Cal was capable of that.
If you can name Cal's quarterback, and if you're just a general fan who can name Cal's quarterback, you'll win something, because Fernando Mendoza doesn't roll off people's lips.
I did not know that guy's name till yesterday. I got to be honest.
Yeah. It put up 49 points for the Bears. Caleb Williams can't play defense. I feel bad for him. Granted, he didn't have for putting up 369 yards and 2 touchdowns, he was 23 of 40.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 23 of 40 doesn't scream Heisman Trophy. Heisman Trophy winner.
No, but you know what? At the same time, though, I feel kind of bad for him, because I feel like he knows that he's got to do so much that at times he's pressing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
And I don't think that's really his fault. Is he the Heisman Trophy winner? In my opinion, this year, no. But I do think he's a really good player, and without him, how many games would this USC team have lost?
A lot.
4, 5?
I think they wouldn't be going bowling without Caleb Williams. They're not bowling.
I agree.
They're 4-8. They're 4. Because you go down, go through their schedule. Hold on, let me get to it. I just had it up. Well, they lose the Cal game, plain and simple.
Yeah.
So that's another loss to add to the wheel of fun. They would have lost to Arizona.
Oh, no doubt.
They definitely would have lost to Colorado.
There's no doubt.
Probably would have lost to Arizona State.
Yeah.
Arizona State's the best 2-6 football team in the country. And it's weird saying that, but go look at their schedule and look at the talent they have in that roster. Right now, what Dillingham's doing there, I think in 2 years, they may be playing for a Big 12 title. And people think I'm crazy. They're outperforming their numbers by a long ways.
They aren't necessarily getting the results right now, but I think they're certainly playing good football and sticking around in games that they probably have no business being in.
They shouldn't even – honest to God, I'm surprised they would get to 2 wins this year. That's how down I was on them. I thought 2 wins was going to be pushing it. They're playing pretty well to the point where, a break here, a break there. Hell, they could potentially be bowling, which is insane.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And I do want to talk real quickly while we're here in the Pac 12 discussing it. Let's talk a little bit about a game that we didn't really plan on talking about, but I think we need to hit on, and that is Colorado. You know, everybody was talking about Colorado nonstop for what, 4 or 5 weeks there.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
6
ever since
weeks.
the TCU game.
Yeah, that was just all anyone could talk about. And you know, you at the time stated that these warts maybe weren't showing up yet. Defensively, their offensive line, was showing some holes, but not really getting exposed for what it was. Well, these things that you mentioned 6 weeks ago are coming to fruition and exposing themselves pretty at a heightened rate here, especially against UCLA yesterday. UCLA turned the ball over 4 times in the first half. And, I knew that there was going to be a problem for Colorado because it was 7-6 at halftime. And I'm like, how are you losing to a team that's turned the ball over 4 times in the first half? And as me and you both mentioned, it was because of the offensive line. I mean, UCLA's offensive line was pushing the Colorado defensive line around. And then Shedeur Sanders, I think he was sacked 7 times at least. That spells for a long day. The Murphy twins I thought they were running backs for Colorado because of the amount of time they spent in the backfield. What do you think's going on in Colorado right now? And what do you think's Deion's viewpoint is about this team moving forward as they sit right now at 4-4?
I think they've outplayed what everybody thinks they have, but the problem is at the end of the day, their offensive and defensive line have been the issue. And Kirk Herbstreit brought it up yesterday on game day, and I agree with him. Pretty much their entire starting line, offensive line, would probably be not even starting at most top 25 schools, probably most top 35 schools. They're just not good. Now, is Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter outperforming what we thought they would? Yeah. I mean, Travis Hunter right now, I think is, put him at 1, 2, or 3 in the draft. He's that good. But 2 players can't win a game. Someone's got to cover him. And quite frankly, I'm shocked that Shedeur Sanders hasn't been hurt as much as he's been tackled.
Well, he got hurt yesterday. I don't know if you saw him at the end of the game. I mean, he could barely walk after the 6th or 7th sack. He was limping noticeably, and I thought they should have taken him out, to be honest with you. I mean, I know, I'm not going to second guess Deion's coaching because I think he's done a phenomenal job this year, but I didn't think he looked right, and I didn't think it was a good idea to leave him out there with the beating that he had taken. But yeah, I mean, Travis Hunter, he took a lot of flack for his performance in that Stanford game.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, because he didn't play very well. But to come back yesterday and have 2 picks in the first half and amazing interceptions as they were, I think showed a lot about who this kid is and what he can do. So the question is, does he stick around for another year? Because I believe he's eligible to go in the draft. Is he not?
He is. He is.
Do you think he goes, or do you think he stays around for another year? I'm pretty sure he's gone.
I think he's going to stay because they just got a commitment for the number 1 quarterback in the 2025 class, and I can't think of the kid's name. He's out of Houston County, Georgia.
I saw him, but he's not going to start over Shedeur next year.
No, he's 2025, so he's still got another year of high school before he can go to college.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's going to be Shedeur. It's going to be
Shedeur's going to stay around for another year, I think.
Yeah, and you think Travis Hunter is too?
I think Hunter's going pro.
Yeah, that's who I was asking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Shedeur.
No. I was talking about Travis Hunter. I said after
if I'm Travis Hunter, I'm gone.
Yesterday. Yeah,
I'm gone. Yeah. I'm gone.
Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah. That's what I was talking about. After the 2 interceptions that he had yesterday, I just saw, as you mentioned, I saw him being a top 5 draft pick. I mean, I think he's better than Derek Stingley Jr., who went top 5. I think he's a better corner than he is. Do you not?
I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
absolutely.
Let's move on to another game for a team that we talked about pretty extensively on this show. I don't know if other shows have hit on them, but that's the Arizona Wildcats. And last week, if you recall, we both picked Arizona in this game. As much as I like DJ and DJ Ukulele and what he's done for Oregon State, I didn't like this matchup for them,
Yeah.
and it ended up not working out too much in the Beavers' favor. Arizona now sits at 5-3 and 3-2 in the Pac-12. What was your thoughts on their 27-24 victory over number 11 Oregon State yesterday?
What Jed Fish has done in developing, I mean, especially as much as they lost in the transfer portal, plus Jaden DeLaura going down. I mean, quite frankly, they're a better team. Fafita is really just stepping up. I mean, 25 of 32, 275, 3 touchdowns, interception. This team looks convincing. And it's not like Oregon State's got a good defense.
Yeah.
And they were carving them up. I mean, Noah Fafita is an unbelievable talent, and he's just a freshman.
Yep. And another Polynesian quarterback in the long history of the Arizona Wildcats. I know that our friend of the program, George Malolulu, was loving this game yesterday as he watched his Wildcats take down Oregon State, number 11, on TV.
Not only that, I mean, you had an all-Polynesian quarterbacking game between him and Ungalele. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, this Arizona just keeps looking better and better. And because I'm not going to lie, I questioned Jed Fish when he got hired at Arizona because it's not like he's not a good coach. He just makes the game way too complicated. And he coaches like they're coaching in the NFL. And must have developed quite a bit because this Arizona team, I mean, heck, you look at it, they're probably going bowling somewhere. And who would have ever thought about that going in?
Oh, they're definitely going bowling. I mean, they've already won 5 games. All they got to do is win one more, and they're making a bowl. And you know, I don't know if I was like hating the hire at the time with Fish, but let's talk about it for a second. A lot of guys have tried to go out to Tucson and win and have been unsuccessful. And I'm talking about guys that have won other places: Rich Rodriguez, Kevin Sumlin. The list goes on and on of guys who have gone out there trying to resurrect their coaching careers and haven't lasted very long because it is a kind of a tough place to win football.
It really has. I mean, granted, the amount of talent in the state of Arizona in high schools has grown exponentially. I mean, there are so many good programs out there right now. Plus, you can tap into the Southern California markets too as well. They've never been able to put it together.
It's a fact, Jack. Let's talk about another team that is still undefeated. I guess like the unofficial team of man coverage, and that is our Air Force Academy Falcons, getting another victory yesterday in the snow against Colorado State. First half, a little bit shaky. They were tied at halftime, 13-all. Colorado State, I thought, played a pretty good game, honestly, and stepped up to the challenge. But, the Falcons were not going to be denied. Only threw for 32 yards yesterday, and yet still came away from the victory. What did you think about our Falcons yesterday?
Well, offensively, Colorado State really had a smart game plan where basically they had everybody filling the gaps. So everything up the middle was just not going to work. They had to do it to the outside, and the safeties came down hard. I questioned why they weren't trying to run play action and get some balls to their tight ends. And, I mean, Colorado State was able to throw the ball. I mean, Nikolai Fowler really was – I mean, he was throwing the ball like they did against Colorado in that game earlier in the year.
That's what I was going to say.
You get to that second – or Fowler Nikolai, the quarterback.
Yeah.
Then you get to the second half, and Air Force just turned it on. I mean, that was just a game of freaking pure will. And defensively, once again, this defense keeps stepping up over and over and over again. We talk about the safeties, especially Trey Taylor, but names like Bo Richter and Alex Mock, this is a team to watch. And I mean, you look at the rest of their schedule, their toughest two games or toughest games on the way out are probably going to be the last two. Home against UNLV and then at Boise State. If they win one of the two, no matter what, they're playing for the Mountain West Championship. But if they win out, you're probably going to see them in the Fiesta, the Cotton, or the Peach Bowl going up against the Power 5 program.
I agree. Another thing I want to get your take on really quickly. UCLA, obviously, always been one of my favorite uniform combos.
Agreed.
What the hell were they wearing yesterday? Did you see that?
I did not. I got to look it up here quick.
Oh, my God. It was horrible.
Now, whose jersey are you wearing? Drew Bennett?
No, this is actually Brandon Chilar.
Oh, okay.
The linebacker. This is his Las Vegas Bowl jersey from 2005, I think. He went on to be the first American Indian football player to win a Super Bowl in the NFL with the Green Bay Packers. Buddy, I've got some random game-worn jerseys in the collection, and this is one of the more random ones. But I love UCLA, just the way they've always just had the same pretty much look and feel of their uniforms. It's very old school. I've always loved just a traditional. But I didn't know what the hell they were wearing yesterday. It looked like they stole Ole Miss's game jerseys, the baby blue Ole Miss jerseys, and then put like a little ring on the outside of them. It was horrible, and I hope they burn them after the game. Not to mention the Colorado State uniforms. Did you see those? What the hell was that?
The state flag? Yeah.
What was that?
That was the best part of watching that game, was like watching Jay Norvell having that state in Air Force blue and white. I'm like, what was their job? Like to try to confuse the Air Force players who are, it's kind of a hard school to get into and they're kind of smart. What do you think they're going to start looking at Jay Norvell for signs? I mean,
I don't know. I was looking. I would turn the game on and I saw the helmets and the uniforms. I'm like, what the hell game is this? I thought Air Force was playing Colorado State today.
That's exactly what it took me a little bit to figure out until I saw the helmet with the Colorado state flag on it. I mean, granted, Colorado state flag is much more appealing than Maryland's freaking pile of crap. I mean, seriously, please, Maryland, for the love of God, go back to the old school script terps like you had in the 80s when you had guys like Neil O'Donnell, Boomer Esiason, quarterbacks who were actually good. Go back to those uniforms. Those were appealing.
Yeah, well, I love the Colorado State traditional, green and gold with the Ram helmets. I mean, those are sweet. There's no reason why you even have to do that. I'm very confused. But
granted, the orange, when they do that orange uniform, that is just appalling. I mean, that is just that blaze orange with the gold and green. You should look it up. They have a blaze orange main color with gold and green on it. That is just like, what the hell? I
don't know. I'm just all the combinations that you can go with, and that's what UCLA and Colorado State chose to put on. That, I mean, I thought you're supposed to throw flashy uniforms on to draw recruits in, not scare them away. And both of those teams miserably failed. So
there's this one uniform combination that Minnesota and Florida State both had in the 80s, which was like this mustard colored with like their helmets were mustard colored. Their jerseys and pants. And I'm like, just go gold, go yellow, go something, but mustard. I mean, it looked like baby poo. It was just awful looking.
Yeah,
we should do an
absolutely
episode on that in the offseason of horrendous uniforms of the past.
We should put that together and get a little reel of all the shittiest uniforms that we've seen from each team. And speaking of shitty, the Duke Blue Devils seem to have lost a little bit of their luster as we go down the stretch, and it makes me so sad because I want Duke to finish strong one year with the momentum they've built. I mean, Riley Leonard still doesn't look the same. And yesterday, they just got pushed around a little bit by the Cardinals. Louisville 7-1 now, number 18 in the country. They blew out the Irish, who actually Notre Dame looked pretty good yesterday.
Yeah.
What the hell happened last week when they lost to Pittsburgh 38-21? I mean, was that just Pittsburgh's not good, James? How did they beat this Louisville team?
Go through the ACC, and there are more what the hell games. And trust me, if you predicted, you didn't even need the numbers, but straight up money line sprinkled UVA over North Carolina last year, either you're Nostradamus or just incredibly damn lucky. Like, buy lottery tickets. It's probably better odds than UVA beating North Carolina last week. They're crazy games. I mean, who would have thought Virginia Tech, Louisville could decide who's playing Florida State for the ACC title?
Never would have thought that. And there's no one that picked, North Carolina to lose that game. I mean, there's nobody. If someone tells you they picked that, they're lying their asses off.
Oh God!
Nobody picked Virginia to win that game. In fact, I've talked to about 30 of buddies of mine who lost their 4 or 5 team parlays to win thousands of dollars because they just threw that game on there as an afterthought, and obviously didn't end up working out.
They won all the tough games, and then UVA screwed.
Yeah, that was the one they lost out on, and that's just kind of been the ACC this year. And the Duke Louisville game, kind of shows that. And then, we saw Clemson go down once again, 4-4. What's happened in Clemson? I know we've talked about this a little bit, but did you anticipate Clemson going 4-4 to start the season this year?
We mean Clemsoning? I mean, it's been a while. I mean, they've been inoculated during the, Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence era. But I think Dabo wants to bring back Clemsoning as being cool again. This would be comical if Clemson doesn't even go to a bowl game this year, because they're gonna lose to Notre Dame. That's so 4-5. That means you got to go 2-1 versus Georgia Tech, North Carolina, and at South Carolina.
Yeah, who beat them last year when they were a much better football team. And my thing was, they didn't even this team that doesn't believe in the transfer portal. They wanted to ship DJ Uiagalelei out of their team as fast as they could using the portal. But I'm not sure this kid's better than him. And I'm talking about Cade Klubnik.
I don't think Cade Klubnik's the problem. I don't think
he is either, but do you think he's better than DJU?
No, I don't either. I think DJU's better, but I mean, now you've had back-to-back quarterbacks. I mean, Clemson's not getting better. They're getting worse. And it wasn't that long ago they were playing for national titles.
Every year.
I mean, hell, I remember a day when they had guys like Taj Boyd at quarterback with Sammy Watkins and Nuke Hopkins at receiver. Who the hell are the receivers now? I mean, they went through a stretch of receivers like coming out of their eyeballs. Now you can't even name one.
Jake Briningstool.
That's a name that just rolls off the tongue.
Jake Briningstool. It sounds like an instrument to get you unclogged or something. That was their leading receiver yesterday.
They're tight end. They're freaking tight end.
And I would encourage everyone to go online and pull up his team picture, because it is, oh my God, it looks like he got electrocuted with his hair going everywhere. It's very, very interesting. But yeah, this is a weird situation going on there in Clemson, and I'm very interested to see what happens moving forward. Does he change with the times and get this turned around? Do they keep going down? I have a hard time believing that everybody just thinks it's over. Their dynasty's over. Their winning ways are done. I'm not sure I buy that.
I don't buy that.
They're in the ACC. I mean, shit. Georgia Tech can win games in the ACC. I think Dabo can go back to winning games as well. But that's just me. Let's talk about next week real quickly here. We've got can you believe it's week 10, James?
I know.
Does that seem possible?
It seems crazy, to tell you the truth.
We've got some big ball games coming up. We've got Kansas State, Texas, which I think is a big one in Austin. No Ewers in that one. You already mentioned Notre Dame, Clemson. We got A&M, Ole Miss. We've got Campbell at North Carolina. That should be, does North Carolina lose a third game in a row? I wouldn't have even mentioned that game before, but after these 2 straight losses, maybe the Campbell, what are they, the Camels?
Yeah, they're the Camels. Can you imagine? I guarantee you every freaking Wake fan, Duke fan, and NC State fan have suddenly become the biggest Campbell Camels fan you could find. They're gonna buy more paraphernalia for Campbell than you can shake a stick at. Than Campbell's gonna sell the rest of the year combined.
Yeah, they're gonna do some sales that week, and we got Army, Air Force, obviously. Always an interesting matchup, and Missouri, Georgia, Oklahoma State.
Bedlam. The last year of Bedlam. This could be interesting watching this one because the mullet is going to try to make a statement in this game because this game that has always haunted him, and to end it, he could end it with the final say.
I agree. I want to see that game. I'm very interested in that one. And then obviously we have Washington, USC, LSU, Alabama, Oregon State, Colorado, and then the nightcapper is a good one. As a matter of fact, UCLA and Arizona. Which other game stands out to you that you're most interested in next week?
That UCLA Arizona game could be a war.
I would love to. I'm going to watch that one.
Yeah, that's going to be. I mean, UCLA is just so good on the line of scrimmage. That is going to be the key in that game. LSU, Alabama. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to take Bama in that game right now.
Are you?
Yeah, I mean, LSU, I just don't trust their defense at all.
I don't trust their defense, but I think they've got a shot in this one just based on their might be able to outscore them. So I'm going to take the Tigers.
All right.
You're taking the Bamers, and I'm taking the Tigers in that one.
Yeah, I got the Elephants. I'm not even going to mention Washington USC because, quite frankly, watching USC's defense is a crime to humanity.
I would say that, but the way that the last few weeks of college football are gone, USC will probably beat them by 30.
Jesus, please don't say it's so.
My favorite thing on this whole thing is you go down like the game list, and it tells you like Purdue, Michigan. Buy tickets now at tickets as low as $112. And then it says, Washington, USC, buy tickets now at the Coliseum. Tickets as low as $105. And it goes down, and the LSU, Alabama is $147. Oregon State, Colorado is $175, which is crazy to me. Remember, you couldn't pay anyone to go watch Colorado last year. But the bottom, it says UCLA, Arizona, tickets as low as $14. It does not cost a ton of money to get into a Wildcats game, folks. I don't know if any of y'all have ever been to Tucson, but I went to a Pac-12 game. This was probably 15 years ago. I was in town for business. Me and my boss were like, let's go watch some college football. They were playing Washington, a Pac-12 matchup. It was a night game out there. We walked up. We each paid $5 to get in. We sat on the front row of the mezzanine where you had free food, unlimited, and like 50-yard line seats for $5. And I was like, man, I wish I was a Wildcat fan. It's pretty inexpensive to do so. So
I got 2 upsets for next week before we go.
All right, give them to me.
I think Mizzou is going to go into Athens and beat Georgia.
Really?
I do. I think the Alpha Nerd is building something there. I mean, you look at the recruiting trail, what they have done. Granted, the Missouri legislature has helped them from an NIL standpoint, but there is some, I mean, they're recruiting exceedingly well, but this team is outperforming where they're at. In another game I'm kind of intrigued by, and I guarantee you're going to start laughing as soon as I say this. I think Gig'em is going to go in to Vaught Hemingway Stadium and knock off Ole Miss, because I don't think Ole Miss is that good. And how they're number 12 is just kind of like a head scratcher to me.
I just don't think there's anyone else to put there, but I could see A&M knocking off Ole Miss, especially the way that A&M has played the last few weeks. That would not shock me. But
yeah,
I've got you down. I got Missouri, and I got you down for A&M, and then I've got you down for Bama, and I've got LSU on that one. So
perfect.
We'll see how it works out, and we will all
and we both
enjoy.
got Campbell, right? We both got Campbell over
Campbell.
UNC.
We both picked the Camels over the Tar Heels. So
if we win that, we're gonna get so much crap.
I honestly think that they'll probably get right at that point, but we'll see.
Well, you better hope so. I mean, otherwise Drake may be run out of town. I mean, he maybe have to transfer to Duke or something like that. So
that would actually help the Blue Devils, I think, going forward. So
if their offensive line would stay somewhat healthy. I mean, holy crap! But
brutal.
All right, man.
All right, week 9 in the books. Week 10 coming up. Stay tuned. There'll be some more crazy shit happen, I'm sure. So keep your chin up, and we'll get back in touch next week, okay?
And hopefully we'll see a Travion Henderson sighting next week too.
God, I hope so. I know he's probably already ruled himself out for next week versus Rutgers. But I'm sorry. It's not funny to make fun of someone's injuries, but when you sit out 4 weeks in a row and then you go out in the field and run for 300 yards, it's kind of like, were you really that hurt before this? Because he looked pretty goddamn healthy yesterday. Is all I.
You loved my groundhog comment, didn't you?
Yes, I did. He looked really good. He stuck his little head up, ran for 200 yards. Had 50 yards receiving, won the game for us, and then he's like, I'll play again in 4 weeks, guys. Good for him. I hope he makes a ton of money. All right, keep it up. Talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.
Bye.